What we're going to take a look at here is we're going to add and subtract fractions, some with common denominators and some without common denominators, but we're going to have to go through and find that common denominator. Before we get into that, just a quick thing with fractions, just remembering the different parts of a fraction. The top is called the numerator and the bottom is called the denominator. Now, when we take a look and we add these fractions, something like 1 over 8 plus 3 over 8, a good way to think about that is looking at these right now, we have different numerators, but we have the same denominator. Anytime we have the same denominator, these are going to be a little bit more straightforward. If I think about kind of a pizza pie, and if I'm going to add basically one slice of pizza would be this here. If I have 1 and I'm adding 3 more, so let's say we have our 1/8 here, and I'm going to add 1, 2, 3 more, those would be my 3/8. What I end up going through and doing is really, I just added the numerator. So I add 1 piece with 3 more. So looking at what I did here, it would really be like 1 plus 3 pieces of pizza, all still over 8, because there's a total of 8 in the whole pie. I'm going to go 1 plus 3, give me 4, and I would have 4 over 8. So 4 of the slices have been eaten. Say if I had 1 and somebody else had 3, 4 of the total slices are eaten. Now, if I look at this, that would be my answer. But for some of these fractions, what I can go through and do is I can simplify them. I can end up reducing it to something a little bit more simpler. How I check that is I look at both the numerator and the denominator, and I look to see, is there some common factor? So is there something I can divide both the top and the bottom by? And I'm always looking for the biggest number that I can divide both of them by. If I look at 4 and 8, what I could say is, well, I could really divide the top by 4 and then also divide the bottom by 4. These two numbers have to be the same. I can't do like 2 and 4. They have to be dividing the same thing on the top and the bottom. So if I did 4 divided by 4, that would be 1. 8 divided by 4 would be 2. So that means really when I add 1/8 and 3/8, I would have 1/2, which looking at this, I do have 1/2 of that whole pizza. Half of it is still on the other side. And really, I'm going to go through and do the same exact thing when I have any of the same denominators. So looking at these, I have the same denominators. All I'm going to do is add a straight across on the numerators. And really, the biggest mistake people make is they would try to add the bottom pieces as well. But looking at kind of this example of what we had seen, you're not going to do that. Okay, you're just going to if it's the same denominator, just go straight across on the numerators. So looking at these ones here, I have the same denominator. So what I can really do is just 7 plus 8 all over 16. 7 over 8 is 15. So I would have 15 over 16. Now looking at these, there's nothing I can simplify this to. Okay, there's nothing that I can divide 15 by that also divides 16. The only things that divide 15 are 3 and 5 and 15, none of which go into 16. That would be my final answer. Now 3/4 minus 5/4, again, same approach. Now I'm just going to subtract the numerators. So 3 minus 5 gives me -2. Looking at -2 over 4, I try to see if I can simplify that. In this case I can. I can divide the top by 2, and I can also divide the bottom by 2. Remember, these numbers have to be the same if I'm going to divide both of those. So I would have -1/2. So 3/4 minus 5/4 would be equal to -1/2. Now, and that's kind of what we're going to look at when we have the same denominators, but most of the time we won't have the same denominators. So if I took a look at some of these, now when I have different denominators, what I want to create is the same denominator. So I want to go through and create what we're going to call common denominators. Okay? What that really means is I'm going to take an expression like this, like 1 over 2 and 1 over 6, and I want to say, all right, I want to create the same denominator for both of them. So I want to look at the two of these things. I have 2 and I have 6, because right now I can't add these two things together without the denominators being the same. Because basically, it comes back to this pizza kind of question. I need to have the same breakdown, so I need to have everything over 8 if I want to add increments of 8. I can't do it if I have different denominators. Now looking at this, what I'm going to go through and do is I want to find a common denominator. So to do that, I'm going to look and see, okay, from these two, can I multiply one of them to get to the other one? So looking at 6, there's nothing I can multiply 6 by to get to 2. But I can multiply 2 by 3 to get to 6. You know, if I multiply the bottom by 3, then this is going to have a denominator of 6. Just like before, if I'm going to divide something out on the bottom, I need to do it on the top as well. So I would multiply the top and bottom by 3, which would just give me 3/6. Now, if I worked backwards, if I pulled out 3, I would end up having 1/2. So what I'm at, I would have 3/6 plus 1/6. Now I have common denominators. It's exactly the same as the front page. I would add 3 and 1, which would give me 4/6. And now I would look to see, can I simplify that? Looking at these, the answer should be yes. I should be able to divide both of them by 2, which would give me 2/3. Okay, so again, find the common denominator, see if I can multiply one of them to get to the other one. If I can, you do that. Multiply the top and the bottom by 3, give me 3/6 plus 1/6, 3 plus 1/6, and I just simplify at the end. Same approach here, I'm looking at this. I can't multiply 8 by anything to get to 4, but I can multiply 4 by 2, and I'm going to get 8. When I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. So I would have 6/8 minus 7/8. Now that I have a common denominator, I can actually just go straight across. So I would do 6 minus 7 over 8. What that gives me is -1 over 8. Looking at those, there would be nothing I could simplify. That would be my final answer. Now, the ones that end up being the most challenging are going to be these last two. If I look at this, there's nothing I can multiply 4 by to get to 3, and there's nothing I can multiply 3 by to get to 4. Same thing over here. Nothing I can multiply 2 by to get to 3, nothing I can multiply 3 by to get to 2. That's a whole number at least. So now what I have to kind of do is I got to use a little bit of critical thinking here. I need to think about, okay, well, what number could I multiply 4 to that I could also multiply 3 to? So if I think about it, 4 times 1 is 4. Can't multiply 3 to 4. 4 times 2 is 8. There's nothing I can multiply 3 by to get to 8. 4 times 3 is going to be 12. If I multiply 3 by 4 over here, these are going to give me common denominators. They would both end up being 12. So what I'm going to end up doing, just like the problem before, multiply the top over here by 3, and then multiply the top over here by 4, because I multiply the bottom by 3 over here, and 4 over here. The reason why is because now if I do that, I'm here. So I have 3 over 12 and 4 over 12, which is common denominators, then I can go through and just add those two things, which would give me 7/12. Because again, I would just do 3 over 4 plus 12, and this would not be able to be simplified. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is I could not go from 4 to 3 directly, or from 3 to 4 directly, so I have to manipulate both of them. And I'm going to have to do the same thing over here. Looking at this, what I would say is, well, 2 times 2 is 4. There's nothing I can multiply 3 by to get to 4. Let me try another one. 2 times 3 gives me 6. What I could multiply 3 by is 2. So I could go through and say, well, let me multiply 3 over 3 here, 2 over 2 here. The reason why, when I go through and I do that, I should have common denominators now, which I do. All right, I have 3 over 6 and subtracting 2 over 6. Same denominators, I can just go straight across. I would have 3 minus 2 over 6, which gives me 1/6. All right, and that's basically what we're going to be going through and working on today, just kind of adding and subtracting these things with like denominators and when they don't have like denominators.